a very good afternoon to you, and welcome to this, the 100th episode of Xandermonium, the Centennial episode, if you will, of the talk show that gets you talking and keeps you talking. I'm Xander Gibb, and on today's show, I will be looking back at the last 2 years with my co-host, broadcaster, writer, CEO, and honorary Glaswegian, Tyhe Egar. And in part 2, I will be dishing it all from Dallas to Hollywood to her latest book that she's co-written, What Women Really Want, with the other PolitiChicks. I will also be talking to Hollywood star and my favorite TV villainess, Morgan Brittany. More to come in a mere moment. So you can interact with us during the show in the chat room at the bottom of the page. Keep scrolling down, and we'll be chatting with you throughout. If you can't, if it doesn't let you chat, you need to log in with Facebook or Twitter to be able to join in the conversation. You can also call us with your questions, 347-884-9061. That's 347-884-9061. Or even on Twitter. Oh, yes, all the mod cons here. You can tweet me at Xander Gibb. That's XanderGibb, at capital X, capital G. And you can tweet Tyhe on at Tyhe Egar. TYHEPAULEGAR. Capital T, capital P, capital E, and Morgan. You can tweet Morgan Brittany, yes, the famous actress from Dallas and PolitiChick, on at Morgan Brittany 4. I'll spell that for you, MorganBrittany, and the number 4 with a capital M and a capital B. And if you want to check out the PolitiChicks, you can also check them out on Twitter, and their Twitter handle is at the PolitiChicks. I'll spell it for you. ThePolitiChicks. Now tweet me if you're too shy, and I promise I will make your point for you. Yes, I will. So, as I said at the foot of the show, today is indeed the 100th edition, the Centennial episode, if you will. And what an interesting journey it's been. We've had many guests on the show at various stages of their careers who have remained friends of the show throughout. And we've tackled many difficult subjects, and you have told us how much we have helped you along the way, indeed healing and growing ourselves too in the process. Now, our core of faithful listeners has grown phenomenally, and we are so grateful for those of you who have stuck with us through the ups and downs of our little show. Now, we've met with negativity and faced it head on. We stood up to the bullies and refused to walk away from those who chose to work against us and move on in a positive direction with us. Now, as you know, Xandermonium is now a TV show too, and we continue to go from strength to strength. I'd like to thank Tyhe Egar for co-hosting and EPing on the show. Thanks to Tony Lusacco, Donna Rahman, Sarah Boyles, Joe Messina, all for coming on as guest co-hosts, and also the many guests that have been on the show throughout the 2 years. And most of all, thanks to you for listening. You're why we're here. You're why we continue to do the show. And here is to the next 100. And that was my anniversary soapbox for this week. If you'd like to come on and get on your soapbox, you can simply email me at Xander@XanderGibb.com. That's Xander@XanderGibb.com. Oh, yes, indeed. You can. So joining me to break down this week's discussion on the last 2 years of the show is broadcaster, writer, singer, and honorary Glaswegian. Welcome to the 100th show, the one, the only Mr. T.P. Egar. We reached a century, Tyhe. Welcome to the show.
Congratulations. Here we are.
Thank you, and to you too. It's been a whirlwind, hasn't it, really? And when we were talking the other day, I didn't realize until we were talking that it was you've been doing the show for a year now. How can it be a year?
Yeah.
Where has that time gone?
I know, that's so scary, because it was, I said, because I didn't realise it was just after the launch of Alchemy and that I started co-hosting with you when you very kindly asked me to start hosting shows with you. And it's a year. It's unreal. It genuinely is. I know people say that all the time, oh, where's the time gone? But it's genuinely, it's surreal how fast that time has gone. And when I look back at how many shows I've co-hosted with you, it's scary. It's flown by, but here we are. Fantastic, amazing, and congratulations to you. 2 years, man, that's amazing.
Thank you, and obviously congratulations to you, because it's kind of your anniversary too. I was actually thinking, I wrote an article about the Centennial Edition this week, and I was thinking about how the road has been and how it was really tough in the beginning. But I think that what has come out of these 2 years is so many good things. We've made so many new friends and new contacts, people who will continue to be our friends and drop in and out of the show. And I think we've tackled some really controversial issues and actually done it with style and dignity and made sure that people actually got something out of listening to the show. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think I don't think I really knew where we were. I was going to go with you originally, and then just it kind of took on legs really, and here we are.
I know it did really kind of like take on a life of its own, I think, and I think that's really testament to listening to your audience, because I think that a lot of shows they just do whatever they feel is right. But I find that oddly enough, the things that I wanted to do topics about, things that I've been encountering, like a year ago we did a show. I think it was maybe just before you joined us, when our dear friend Ben Buffton, the producer, had died, and we did a show about grief. It was actually his birthday yesterday, so big shout out to his wife and his family. But we did that show on grief, and I got so many emails back, even from his wife, saying that it had helped her too, and that to me is worth $1 million when people get back to you and say, Xander, or to Tyhe, you that really helped me. Have you found that too with people that that listen to the show and fans of your work?
Yeah.
And right.
Yeah, totally, absolutely. I think that's one of the things that that has been really special about it, is the fact that people do reach back, and that you are reaching people, or at least people are hearing what you're saying and it's making a difference, however small. And yeah, definitely, particularly the things, because we have, I suppose, because you and I think on the show as well, what people have realised is we really genuinely don't script things, and sometimes when we start, we can start with humour and suddenly end up in a very, very deep, heavy conversation about something, and we don't, and obviously we do that fearlessly, and we've had to, even though we've got backlash from that, but it's helped people, and it's always good to know that when we do become kind of serious about things, that it's helping as well. It's not, it's not putting people off. It's actually reaching people in a positive way. Which is always good to know, because, because it's all, candy floss is great, but it rots your teeth eventually.
Exactly. And one of the things that's really I've found quite amazing, looking back at the last 2 years, is how ahead of the curve we've been on so many topics. And people have even kind of said, oh, yeah, why are you still talking about this? And then they're like, oh, well, now I see why you still continued to talk about it. I'm thinking of things like, the situation in Russia with the Olympics, et cetera, et cetera. So many people who have actually been critical. I think in a way it's actually important to listen to your critics, too. I'm not saying that you shouldn't question their motivation, but I think even your critics have something to teach you about what you're doing. Now, one of the people that really stood out for me in the past 2 years of doing this show was a young girl who totally inspired me, 17-year-old Pakistani advocate for girls' education, Malala Yousafzai, who on Friday became the youngest winner of the Nobel Prize. And she told the committee that she was only 14 at the time she was shot. And just 11 when she started blogging anonymously about the struggles of life in Pakistan's Swat Valley. I mean, we complain about our lives, but I mean, imagine getting shot on your way to school. It's kind of like it puts our issues into a very insignificant corner.
Yeah.
Now, the world adopted Malala, and her journey from near death to the Nobel Peace Prize has been documented. And she reminds us of the transformative power of education, and it's important to see that she's a beacon of hope and a reminder that the human spirit holds itself in immense possibility, warmth, humility, and forgiveness. Now, I couldn't have forgiven anybody that shot me in the head, but, Malala did, and she is the world's new symbol of hope, or at least one of them. And her crusade for education rights only seems to be getting stronger as the years pass. And in the world of ISIS and Boko Haram, the Nigerian group that kidnaps young girls and attacks their schools, she's needed now more than ever. And she wrote to some of the families that were involved in that, saying, "Dear friends, on the 9th of October 2012, the Taliban shot me on the left side of my forehead. They shot my friends too." Malala said at the United Nations in July 2013, "They thought that the bullets would silence us, and they failed. And then out of that silence came thousands of voices. The terrorists thought that they would change our aims and stop our ambitions, but nothing changed in my life except this. Weakness, fear, and hopelessness died. Strength, power, and courage was born. And I'm telling this to make a difference to others." And that is true determination, and the kind that hopefully will give more people around the world the right to do the same. Now, I feel a lot of sistership, if you like, for want of a better word, with Malala. And although no one shot at me or shot at you, even doing what we do has been kind of a little adversarial from time to time. So I do kind of like hold some kinship with her about this. What is your response, Tyhe, to them giving her the Nobel Peace Prize and her being the youngest person to ever be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize?
Well, she's more deserving of it than President Obama, so, good for her. But I think it's just important that the important thing is, I think, that what has happened to her has been highlighted, and why what happened to her has been highlighted. The whole idea that because she's a young woman and she wanted to educate herself, she was, basically tried to murder her, that she was suppressed simply because she's a woman. At the end of that, through a religious belief and suppression and sexism and racism and all the rest of it, is amazing. And of course, it's a testament to her as a human being that she can forgive them. Because you're right. I mean, if somebody shot at me, I'm certain that I wouldn't be that forgiving.
No.
As far as the Nobel Peace Prize, I'm not sure what that means anymore to people. I think, but the positive thing from that is, of course, that the world has heard her name and heard her words. I think that's the most important thing I want to say about that, actually.
Absolutely.
As my brain warms up, is that the world has heard her words as she has said them. They've not been corrupted by the press. They've not been corrupted by poor journalism. She's been allowed to express herself clearly because of that award and because of what's happened. And I think that's the most beautiful and most poignant thing that has come from it, is her words have been spoken from her lips, nobody else's.
Absolutely. And I think some of us have been quite critical about certain recipients of the Nobel Peace Prize, because some of the people that had been given it were like, well, why the hell would you give that person the Nobel Peace Prize? But this is certainly an occasion when I am totally in support of this award. being given to this individual, because I think she taught us a lot about life, and I think that her testimony of being able to still get out there and be doing what she's doing, even though she's been shot at and hospitalized, and I don't know. I think there's a lot that we can all take from that, really, don't you?
Absolutely. I mean, that's beyond bravery, isn't it? I mean, if somebody attempts to murder you for you simply wanting to be who you are and wanting to better yourself, and not only do you get past that, you stand up again and face them. And I mean, forget saying you forgive them. You're facing them and still moving forward with doing what you want to do. I mean, most of us would just curl up in a corner and cry. It's immense strength. And I know we're going to throw the word bravery around, which of course it is, but the strength of that young woman's spirit is immense. And I think that's the true power of all of that, you know, in that story, is the strength of this young woman's character as well, that she's going to stand up and say, you know what, it doesn't matter what you throw at me, this is what I want to do. And people need to know about this. She's chosen to not just, you know, to not use this to better her own situation. She's chosen to use this to improve the situation of all young women in her situation and across the world. And that's an amazing thing, you know. Because when we turn the TV on and when you listen to us on this show, we're always talking about the darkness everywhere and the corruption of politics, you know, so and the corruption of business and everything else around us. So when somebody like this stands up and shows us a little bit of beauty, I think it's so important that people do hear it and see it and realise that it's out there still. You know, there is still light in the world.
Absolutely, and I often hear people use that phrase, it restored my faith in human nature, but people with acts of bravery like this really make me feel have my faith in human nature restored somewhat. I mean, I don't know, I think that I still cannot, you know, honestly say in my heart of hearts that I could forgive someone that shot at me. You know, there are more than one kinds of bullets, and there are more than one kinds of attack, and I would like to think that I could be forgiving in any situation, but I couldn't do that. I really could. You know, I would really find it very, very difficult to say I forgive you.
I think that comes from a place of spirituality. You know, I don't think that's a place of consciousness in the sense that, you know, a place of thought. It's a spiritual moment, I think, that you can look at somebody and say, I truly forgive you for what you've done. But having said that, though, you need to forgive somebody for you to be able to move on, because if you don't, you're holding yourself back. So it is important.
Absolutely.
You know, for yourself. So, you know, so it's a good thing for her in that sense.
And I think that I suppose that it you would actually see it differently if you'd encountered that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean?
Well, she's been raised in a culture of that kind of female oppression, hasn't she? She's been raised in a culture of where she's told that she's second best anyway, and her place is not to thrive, basically.
Right.
So I suppose from that sense, you know, any kind of place where you can rise above that is an achievement. So maybe, who knows? We've never been in that situation in that sense. Of you know, we've experienced oppression, but not like that, not to that degree. We've been attacked. I mean, I've been physically attacked. I'm sure you have in the past, and we've faced a society. Well, I've got something to say about that shortly, but you know, we face that oppression, but not to a degree where we're told that as a human being our basic function is to simply obey. You know, so I mean, God only knows what goes through your mind in that situation.
Absolutely. So our hats really do go off to this this young lady, and I think it's a well deserved award, and I think that it's kind of humbling too, I guess.
Totally.
But
yeah.
I'm glad she's safe, and I'm glad she's able to still speak out and say what she feels, and not even bullets can stop her, and that's amazing to me. So I want to come on to you now, Ty, because you've been involved in the show for a year. What stories? And I know I keep saying it. I still can't believe it myself. You see, because it could be 2 years that you've been involved. Because I know you lost a year recently. Ha ha. Oh, you gained a year, didn't you? You didn't lose a year. You gained a year. So maybe it's longer than a year. But during your time, and I know you listened to the show before you actually became a co-host. What stories and topics, etc., have really spoken to you, and what do you feel that those topics and stories have had and done as a greater effect with other people and the listeners and that kind of thing?
Well, I kind of thought of that, and so I've kind of I've written a little bit really, because I know because so many things went through my head. And it is hard to believe that it's a year. It truly has flown. And when we discussed what my favourite parts of the shows have been, I've been involved in, and it took quite a while for me to come up with a definitive moment or part of a show that we've spoken about, because we've spoken about so many things. And of course, it's very tempting, and it's very tempting to cross Bieber with a polo mint and come up with something useful with a whole, or actually watch.
Poor Justin.
Or actually watch. I know. Or actually watch an episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians and find out just how pointless a group of vacuous rich people can be, regardless of whose living room they're decorating, or indeed how many of them it takes to find the pause button on the DVD player when they realise that the sex tape they're watching isn't their own. But instead, I've chosen to revisit a special show that we discuss bullying in all its disgusting guises. And the show was actually inspired by an act of Twitter trolling put out against Xander yourself, and was particularly vicious and hateful. And over the past 12 months, I've shared a very special journey with Xander on this. And it brought home to both just how powerful the media is when it's used in this way, and of course, how devastating bullying is when it's used against the vulnerable and lonely. And it turned out to be one of the most controversial and powerful shows I've ever been involved in, and the response was incredible. Every day we hear of young people taking their lives because of cyberbullying or physical bullying. And I know what you're thinking. He's going to go on about the gay thing again. Well, yes, I am. And of course I am. It was how I got here. Not just the show, but the adult world. I danced my way through a world that wanted me to believe it hated me and it was deviant. And I was deviant. It screamed at me every day and every opportunity that I was an abomination, and it told me I should die. And as you know, how that goes, Xander. But enough of all that tribe, okay? I'll shut up about the gay thing. It's still there, of course it is, but it isn't the only thing that young people face today, nor will it ever be the only thing. And sometimes their own family is the terror in their lives, and that has to be the most difficult mountain that young people climb in their life. So what have we accomplished here on Xandermonium? What am I most proud of working with my great friend Xander? I'm proud to be a voice against all that hatred and lies has to offer, however small a voice I may be. And as I've said many times on this show, and will continue to say again and again with Xander, we are here and we are listening, and you're not alone in the dark, and there's always a light out here for you. And now I've said all that, someone pass me a polo mint.
Why?
Because I'm going to phone
for Justin Bieber. I see. Wow. Well, thank you for sharing that. And sorry, Justin, if you're listening. Sorry, say again.
I can't help it. I can't leave him alone.
No, I think it's imperative to keep a sense of humor, because I think it's what kind of has taken us through. I remember the particular show that you were talking about, and it was very hard because yes, I was the one that had been trolled and attacked and really had some horrible things said about me. But, you know, what these people actually forget is, and that they don't realize, is all of these things although they weren't easy to go through at the time, they've made me stronger, and they've pushed me to try that little bit harder and got me to where I am today. So whilst I'm not saying bullying is a good thing, because it never is in any form, but the byproduct of these people bullying me and attacking me, and we're not even going to go into who they were or what it was about, but the byproduct of is that it really spurred me to get on and do good. And I think that's beautiful in a way.
Absolutely, and I think it was as well. But what struck me as well, and obviously we actually had somebody call in, and I'm not going to mention their name now because it's a while ago,
No.
and we know as well that things were resolved for that person at that time. But what struck me as well was just how profound that damage is, and just how dangerous it becomes, and also how important these vicious little morons think they are out there. They genuinely believe that they have some kind of importance and control over people's lives. And it didn't strike me until after we did the show that there were so many people that were listening who responded after the show were experiencing that kind of bullying, and it was good to hear that we were reaching out to people, because it was a scary thing, and it still scares the life out of me to think that there are people out there listening now who feel alone and feel that they're ready to hurt themselves because they're so past afraid and past caring, and think that there's no help and no hope, and so whatever little that we can do. That's why I think I'll always come back to that particular show, or I'll always come back to that particular topic, because of that that experience and that change that we made, however small, will always stay with me.
I mean, I have to say that I'm never surprised at some of the emails I get about of people that are struggling and don't know where to find the help. And I'm not a social worker, not anymore. I'm a broadcaster, but anybody that ever contacts me and says, Xander, I'm struggling with this or that, I will always get on the internet and find a few phone numbers and addresses, because that takes me 5 minutes. And my next question then is, what more could we all be doing, whatever our jobs are or our lives are like, just to actually be there a little bit more for one another.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to get you to hold hands and sing Kumbaya with me, but I really do think that if we all take just a little step back and just try and be there a little bit more for people, not for value, not for brag rights, not for anything else, but being a bit more human in this human race.
And it's about hearing people. It's about hearing what they're saying, active listening. Because most of the time we stop listening by the time somebody's opened up, by the time they've spoken 6 words, we stop listening. We're not actually hearing what they're saying. And sometimes it is just simply hearing them. That they know that they've got somebody who's listening to what they're saying is enough. And I still am. I'm a holistic stress manager. I'm a drug counselor. I'm out there. I'm on Twitter. You can find me. I have a Facebook page. You can find me. I will respond. Unless there's 5 million of you at once, then it will take me a little while to get to you, but I'll get to you.
Of course. I mean, someone said to me the other day, that they'd seen my TV show and said, "Oh, well, how come you give your email address out to people?" Well, obviously, it's the one that's attached to my website and my shows. But I think it's important to be accessible at whatever level you're at. And, I know big Hollywood stars don't want to be getting emails from every Tom, Dick, and Larry, but I think as I move on, I find it hard not to still be there for people. And I think when you have been trolled and when you have been attacked, it does make you more cautious about who you let in and how much you will assist and how much you will do. But I never want to lose that human element of being accessible to people, because I think that that's what's made this show so successful. You know, we didn't go out there and say we're big stars or we're celebrities or we're this or we're that. We just were like, we're here. And I think that has made a wealth of difference to the level of response we've had. And the other thing I want to say, and this is not to say no, but where are these attackers now? Where are these trolls now? What are they doing now? I'll tell you. Exactly what they were doing a year ago.
Yeah, nothing.
Because
I know.
This is... Go on.
No, I just said it. I mean, it is, but that's important. I mean, the thing. It's easy to say when you're not experiencing the bullying, but usually, and I mean, 9 times out of 10, bullies are very empty people. Well, actually, and 7 times out of 10, bullies are being bullied. I mean, they've got a lot of their own issues. But
exactly.
I mean, your attacker. Yeah, I mean, we were discussing this the other day. The people that we used to work alongside when we were both performing in London, a lot of those people now are still doing exactly what they were doing 20 years ago, which to me is depressing.
Right.
I would rather be saying, would you like fries with that, you know, than doing what I was doing, you know, exactly the same thing 20 years ago. But that's just my opinion, you know. I'm not doing that anymore, and I've never had to say, would you like fries with that? Not that there's anything wrong with that. If you work at a fast food chain, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I'm sure you understand the point I'm making, or I hope you do.
I totally do. I was just going to say, I think it's a shame that some people are happy to stay where they are and to stay, you know, flipping burgers and doing whatever they're doing, and that's fine too, because if that's what works for you. But I never actually understand people without ambition. You know, I get contact from people all the time that say, "Hey Xander, how can I start my own show?" And as you know, I cut back a little bit, but we're always there for people who want to know how to start their own show, who want to start performing, who want to be journalists, want to be citizen journalists. We're always kind of happy to assist people with these things, and
Absolutely.
I think that caring is what has made the difference with all of this.
I mean, as far as sorry, I was just going to say, as far as broadcasting or people who are listening, then it's Xander's taught me how to be a broadcaster. I can only help you with music and writing. And I'm more than happy to help you with music and writing. But if you want any advice on broadcasting, Xander's your man.
Absolutely. And I think that I think that all this giving is, you know, giving back really, because people have helped me too. I mean, you know, just look at the things that you're doing now that you weren't doing a year or two ago. And I think that when people do help you to see your potential, it makes you open to helping other people. You know, it's very circular, I think. Because like I said, there are people out there that have given me a leg up, and I said this in the article I wrote recently. You know, somebody didn't come and knock. You know, the radio show fairy didn't come and knock on my door one day and say, "Hey, Zanny G, let's give you a radio show." I've done it all myself. I mean, you know, I have had some help on the way, but I've been the one that put it all together, got the name, produced the show, wrote the script, did it all. We didn't have anything handed to us, but you know, the beauty is that way you don't have to be beholden to anybody. But I think, having said that, you should always be able to ask for help, because what's the worst anybody can say to you?
Well, absolutely, and we should always be in a situation, I think, where there's space for other people. I think if you back yourself into a corner and say, no, I don't need anybody else, then you've kind of gone in the wrong direction anyway, or you're delusional.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know, and we know a few people like that, don't we? You know, so.
I think we know a lot of people like that. Yeah, I think my point really was that I got off my ass and did this, and you know, I've always been very honest with people, because you know everything's out there. I don't have anything to hide, and I think at the end of the day, you know, people who listen to the show regularly know the story of how the show kind of came together, and I'm glad, I'm glad I did it, but I can't believe it's like I'm sitting here saying this is the 100th episode of Xandermonium. I mean, where does the time go? And I think that it's just amazing, when you look back, how many people we've managed to help, how many people have listened to shows, just in general, how successful the show has been. And I don't kind of like rate its success in terms of how many listens it's had, because it's had a lot of listens. We get thousands of listeners. But I rate how successful it's been in terms of how many people have contacted and said, I really got something from that. And that to me is everything. That's worth more than money. It really
Absolutely,
is.
totally. Because you're not just sat here. It's not just you and I giving each other lip service. People are tuning in and enjoying it. And get that kind of response. Obviously, people are enjoying it and getting something back from it.
Absolutely.
And somebody actually shouted my name across the street the other day, but it was asked Tyhe Egar. It scared me to death. And then they were a listener of the show and had read my book and asked me for an autograph, which was really weird because I just laughed and said,
"Wow,
what would you do with my autograph? Really, seriously?"
Yeah.
But wanted it anyway, and I was happy to do it. But I was just like, honestly, I'm just another human being on the planet. But that's always freaked me out when people have asked me for autographs. It has always kind of freaked me out a little bit because I don't see, I've never seen myself as that person. That when people see you in that light, I never see myself in that light. Plus, it's been quite a while since I've been on stage. I always see myself as a singer rather than as a writer. I don't see myself as I should just write. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
But there you go. So.
I don't know. I just had a flashback then to when we worked in the West End in London, when people would come backstage after the show, just because they would want to kind of like share in the showbiz of it all. But I don't know. It's kind of inexplicable, but it always just used to make me laugh.
But that was cool because everyone was buzzing, and I don't mean that in a drug way, listeners. I mean, everyone was hyper. We'd all been on stage, and people wanted to get in. And
exactly.
I could get into that, but I don't understand. It's just somebody just going, "Oh, I love your books. Can I have your autograph?" Like, well, I'm really pleased you love the book, and I'm more than happy to sit and chat with you about it. But why would you want my autograph? I don't know. But anyway, but I get the music thing because you're hyper. I mean, I do that with other musicians. I go and see a show, and like, that was really cool. Really love the show, man, and whatever. But I don't get excited about authors. Well, that's not true. I'd get excited if I met Clive Barker or Dean Koontz, I suppose, or somebody like that.
Yes, you've been a fan of Clive Barker's for long enough, haven't you?
Oh, he's my favourite author. I think he's got an amazing mind. He's not hard to look at either, actually. But see, I'm so shallow. I just bring it down to just skin.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Get in line. I think.
Yeah, there you go, Colton. You've got.
Yeah, you had your chance, Colton. It's Clive. Is it always just people that's names begins with C for you, isn't it?
C. Yeah.
I'm glad my name begins with an X. Well, Tyhe, we've come to the end of our segment together today. As you know, we've got the fabulous Morgan Brittany coming on in a couple of minutes. Tell people where they can find you on social media. Tell them about your website. It's great to be able to say that now. Tell people about your website.
Finally. Right. Well, as you know, you can all still follow me on Twitter, which is at TyhePaulEgar, capital T, capital P, capital E. But the best thing to do now is just go to www.brokenflowersmultimedia.com and go to the Tyhe Egar page, and all my links, and they are considerable, are all there. So www.brokenflowersmultimedia.com, Tyhe Egar page, and all my links are there, including the book, and Xander's page, Xander's got a page there as well.
Absolutely. And if you go to XanderGibb.com, if you can't remember Tyhe's web address, you will be able to click on his picture that says Broken Flowers on the main page of Xandermonium. And if you click on that, it will take you to all of Tyhe's stuff, to his website. So thanks so much for joining us again today. It's been particularly pleasant to have you on and have you share in this anniversary episode. Make sure you go and read Tyhe's book, which is called Mother's Ruin, which is the first in a series of the Reclamation Wars. You see, I get 50 cents every time I say that. No, I don't really. But we will see you again in a couple of weeks, Tyhe. So thanks so much for joining us today, and you have a great week. Thank you.
You too, honey. See you soon. Bye.
Take care. Bye. So What Women Really Want is a best-selling book written by the PolitiChicks, a.k.a. Anne-Marie Morel, Morgan Brittany, and Dr. Gina Loudon, all who have been guests individually on Xandermonium previously. Now, this book tackles the issues pertaining to what women really want. Now, I even get a few mentions in the book. No, not as a woman, silly, but you will have to buy the book to find out why. Little old Zanny G is even mentioned at all. So joining me to discuss its success and the reactions to the book today are Chief Anchor of PolitiChicks, Anne-Marie Morel, actress and political commentator Morgan Brittany, and host of Smart Life on the Money Biz Life Network, Dr. Gina Loudon. Let me just go and check and see if they're here as yet.
Hello.
Who have we got? Hi, how are you?
Hi, this is Morgan.
Hi, Morgan. We're just waiting for Dr. Gina and Anne-Marie to call in. I'm sure they'll be here momentarily, but as I've got you, I would be amiss to not get your reaction to the fact that Dallas has been canceled. How do you feel about this?
Oh, I know. Everybody is so disappointed. I wouldn't lose all hope yet because there are so many other networks that might be interested in picking it up. They may want to go in a different direction with it. I think they lost a lot of their audience when they got heavily into the drug cartel thing.
Right. Definitely.
And I do believe if they went back to the roots of the original Dallas, that it might, they might have a better chance.
I think so too. Now, they talked about your character, Catherine Wentworth, as being dead, but they've killed people before and brought them back, haven't they? I mean, Bobby Ewing had a shower scene that lasted like 9 episodes. So, so they could resurrect Catherine Wentworth and say she wasn't really dead, because I think it needs a really good villainess. There are a couple of younger actresses there, but I grew up watching the show. And I think that there's a certain magic that Catherine Wentworth could add to Dallas today. Do you agree with that?
I definitely do. I've had a lot of interaction with my fans on Facebook and on Twitter, back and forth, and we have conversations and dialogues about what happened to that character, where she could go. And the interesting thing, Xander, is that about a week or so ago, before Dallas was canceled, the fans were actually asking the producer in an interview what happened with Catherine Wentworth and why did she die. Right. And Cynthia Cedre, the producer, said, we made a terrible mistake. We never should have said that Catherine died on the show.
Right.
Which was kind of an interesting twist because...
Definitely.
That kind of left the door open, if there was a season 4, that they could have brought the character back.
Exactly, because I think that's the beauty of television. I'm a writer, and one thing I love about writing is that it's so magical. You can actually make anything happen. So it could have been a rumor that Catherine was dead, or that she wanted them to think she was dead, so she could come back and get her revenge on the people that had crossed her before.
Right.
So there's so much scope. I think they need to hire me as a writer on the show, and we'll definitely get you back on. But I have to say, I don't know if you noticed, but every time I watched the show, and I watched it every week, and when I watched it live, I tweeted the Dallas page and said it was great, but it needs more Catherine Wentworth, bring back Morgan Brittany. And I saw that a lot of people did that too.
Yeah,
now, I never used to
think
think that. Absolutely, I never used to think that this kind of thing worked, but I think nowadays more so they are listening to the viewers about what they want. So I think you're right. We can't kind of like write it off. I know there's a petition out there if people want to sign it to get Dallas back on for another series. So you know we'll keep fingers crossed. But you are right. It's nothing like it used to be, is it? It went in a totally different direction to what the old Dallas used to be like. And I think you have to retain some of the old series when you're rejuvenating a series, surely.
Oh, of course. And you know, if you really think about everything in the original series was basically the good against evil, and it was the brothers, the fighting Ewing brothers, and then the feud with Cliff Barnes. But it was all basically within that family situation, and then the oil cartel, and it was a very tight story, and I think Larry Hagman had an awful lot to do with that, because he kind of used to drive the storylines where he thought they should go. And with the loss of Larry, I think that was a big loss for the show. And I think a lot of the writers on the new one, I think they just got a little bit carried away, and they tended to focus more on the young people rather than on the original characters, because Sue Ellen kind of went off the deep end, and Bobby Ewing completely changed, don't you think?
Yes, he kind of took on a lot of JR's traits, although not to the kind of like extent that JR used to go to, but a lot of the things he did were totally out of character for the character.
Yeah, but I kind of.
Sorry, go on.
No, I thought that as well, and and also, if you'll remember with Cliff Barnes was always kind of this. He was a little kind of a meek sort of guy, and he was sort of a little mousy in a way, and even my character Catherine just completely walked all over him. And I think that what they did with Cliff was they tried to turn him into this really evil incarnate person. And I thought, wow, that just took away. I mean, with the murder of his own daughter's babies, and it's like, wow, what are they thinking,
I don't think that Cliff Barnes, because this is the thing I think. I see it from both angles because I'm a writer and an actor too, but I think that when you take a character too far out of the realms that you know them as, there's an element of disbelief there. Wouldn't you agree?
Right. Yes, I totally agree with that, and you're so right. And as you're speaking as a writer, so you have to keep everything, and you have to have the audience, not go to a point where they don't even recognize the character anymore.
Absolutely. I've written for TV and for the stage and stuff, but I just wrote my first book, and I even had to keep lists of each character, what their name was, what their part in it all was, just to kind of like keep my memory fresh of what they were doing. But if you watch Dallas from back then and the latest series, the characters have changed. Now, we all change with age, I get that, but I think some of them have changed a little bit too much, really.
Yeah, I agree with you. I completely agree with you. And, of course, it's just like in everything else. People enjoy the characters. They feel comfortable with who they are. Yes, they can stray off in a little bit of a different direction, but there's still that core personality that always comes back, and the audience is comfortable with that. It's like if Bobby Ewing completely changes into a very hard man who does underhanded things, the audience is just not going to accept that. They're not going to buy it.
No, and I think it would, if they'd have brought your character back and made her all sweetness and light, we still would have been waiting for her to stab everybody in the back. Let's face it,
Oh, absolutely. That would have happened.
Because she was scary. I mean, I don't know if when you get a part of that stature that they give you, like a kind of background into who she was. But I definitely think Catherine Wentworth was a little bit mentally unstable, because towards the end she got even more evil, didn't she?
Oh,
It was
She went off the rails pretty much. But it was really good though, because you could see what an obsession with something can do to someone, and that's exactly what it was. She had this obsession with Bobby that it was kind of like, well, if I can't have you, no one can have you, and if anybody gets in my way, I'm going to take care of them. I mean, you're definitely a psychopath at that point. So Catherine had the seeds of that in the very beginning, but I think what happened is the evolution of her character over the years, that I was on the show. She just became more and more and more unglued, and it was almost to the point that you're like, oh my gosh, what is she going to do next?
Right. Absolutely. I mean, there are certain things that when they remake them, I think you should never have bothered. Like they remade the TV series from the '80s, and I loved it, and I loved the remake too. They remade Dallas, and I love that too. But what I'm seeing more and more, and I don't know how you feel about this, but I get really bothered when the networks get rid of stuff that people really like and leave stuff that are just mediocre. I mean, how can they justify this? Because let's face it, we're paying for what's out there. We should get some say in what goes on our channels.
Oh, I agree with you. I mean, there are shows that I think, well, why would they take that off the air when it was doing so well, or it was doing, and people will start petitions and they try to get it back on. Maybe you're right. Maybe that does work in the world of social media now. We can only hope. But there are shows that stay on that I just do not understand. I don't know how. They're mediocre at best. And you're just like, what in the world are these people thinking?
I think it's an unfortunate. I think it's an unfortunate sign of the times that we live in. I mean, you obviously know a lot more about what goes on with TV shows than I do. But what I'm coming to see now, they actually are taking a lot more notice of what the young, hip producers and the executives are saying than what the man on the street is saying. Because even with my little radio show and my little local TV show, if people email me and say, Xander, I would love to see this on your show, I'll do my best to do a segment on it, because I think if you listen to your audience, then you've got more hope of success that way, because you can't please everybody. But listening to your audience, it surely must be paramount in any kind of production.
Oh, that's so true. And traveling across the country, trying to do appearances and things like that for the book and everything, I have talked to so many people, and there is a huge group in this country that are not getting the entertainment that they want. They're not getting the type of television shows or films, and so they don't go. And most of these people are over the age of 30, and they're saying, well, why is everything geared to the young people, and there's nothing for me to see? And I have no answers for them other than the fact that I guess the powers that be, which are not producers and directors like they used to be. You remember, Xander, the old studio system and the way the studios were run originally.
Absolutely.
It was all about the art. It was all about the product. It was all about what the audience wanted to see. Well, now it's all about money. And the bottom line is that most of these people who run these studios now, they're not artists. They are money men, and they're international money people. So they look at product differently, and they really don't care what the majority of the people want to see. All they care about is getting the bodies in the seats, and if it takes an action movie, like all the stuff my husband does. Everything he does is a blockbuster, like the Fast and Furious movies. But the reason that is because internationally that translates to so many countries. So there's a great majority of people in this country that are not getting the product they want to see. They're not getting the shows that they would like, and their questions are going unanswered.
I mean, I'm a fierce advocate of the consumer, and the first thing I ever do with a product that I've paid for or a service that I've paid for, I'm not happy with the level of service or product I've received, is that once I've complained to them and they do nothing, I do take to social media. And I have to say 99.999% of the time they've said to me, Xander, we weren't aware of this, let's look into it, and something's been done about it. So I think that there is an element of truth to this ideology of taking to social media to actually put your point across. Because if you're not happy about it, you should say it. And in the field of entertainment, if they're going to take a show off and you really love the show, be vocal, get on there, because unfortunately actors and writers don't have any say. They're only told if it's going to be extended for another series. And that's as much as they get to find out. And mostly the actors and the writers are the last people to know that stuff's not being continued.
Yeah, that's very true. I did a show back in 1984. I was actually working on Dallas at the same time I was doing this other show. And it was an ABC show called Glitter, you might have remembered. It was about it was David Burney, and it was an Aaron Spelling show, so it was on the same lines as a Love Boat, Hotel, Fantasy Island.
Right.
It brought in all of the old stars, and it was all about the workings of a magazine. And the show was very well produced, very well done. We just had the misfortune of being put up against The Cosby Show and Magnum P.I. And so at that time in 1984, those two shows just blew us completely off the air. And ABC had a bloodbath at that time. So even though we were a really good show, we were canceled, and none of us even knew it was coming. They just one day came down to the set and said, okay, you're done. And we all just stood there and went, what? They said, nope, been canceled. And you're right. We're the last to know, and it can just be a matter of circumstance like that, where the ratings, you just don't pull the ratings, so they pull you off the air. Same thing happens with films, if you'll notice. If a movie that comes out doesn't do incredible box office its first weekend out, they don't even bother to promote it anymore.
No, straight to DVD. I think promotion is a big. I mean, I wish with my shows and stuff I had someone to do the promotion for me, but I do it all because promotion is the crux of it. And I've known shows go out where they don't promote the show, and then they're like, "What happened? Why did it fail?" Well, you failed to promote it, and if you've not put enough money into the promotion and used it all to make the movie, how can you expect people to know it's out there? I mean, people you're fans of, you're going to look for what they've got coming, but you can't always find what they've got coming up, even on the internet. So I think I don't know. It's an unfortunate thing the way the industry is going. I still work within it, but I try to control the things that I'm involved with as much as I possibly can. Because you said a phrase earlier about bloodbath, and I think that really says a lot about the way that this industry is right now. It's become very ruthless, and it's a concern, especially for the younger actors and actresses, especially with people that go on and do reality shows, and then they get these multi-million-dollar contracts, and they've never learned their craft.
That's right.
It's a big concern to me. It really is.
It extremely. You're so right. And if you look at the quality of what's out there, I mean, a lot of the stuff, you either have things that are really good and really, really, top dollar, and then you have crap. You have just garbage. I mean, on the other end of the spectrum, and you just look at it and you go, are you kidding me? They put this out on the air, and it's not like it used to be. Not at all like it used to be. And I'll tell you, doing these reality shows, these producers and the people like Ryan Seacrest, who does all of the, I think he does the Kardashians and he does all these other shows. I mean, they are making money hand over fist because it doesn't cost them anything to do this. The Real Housewives shows, all that kind of stuff. The only thing that they are losing out on is syndication. Because once you've seen these shows, you're not going to want to sit through it and see them again. Where a show like, The Big Bang Theory and 2.5 Men will run in syndication forever, or something like Seinfeld or Cheers. Those things will run forever. But these reality shows have got a very short shelf life, and they just have to keep pumping them out, with more and more and more new people that nobody knows, and nobody knows what happens to these people after it's over.
The unfortunate thing is that it's actually killed real entertainment, because real actors and actresses are going to other countries that are still making movies in order to be able to work, because the only work that's available over here right now is on reality shows, and if they're making something that's new, even big stars like Law and Order, we're getting big stars to go and do episodes of Law and Order. I'm paying them pennies.
I know.
And so the industry has been strangled by all of these things.
Well, it's also, Xander, it's been diluted as well. I mean, you look at, my daughter is an actress, and she does very well for herself, actually, but the point is, she's up against so many people now. I mean, the competition is so fierce out there that the pool of actors is so diluted that producers and directors have thousands of people to choose from. So there's no, you can't demand, you can't say, look at my resume, I should get this amount of money for all the work I've done. They don't care. They'll just say, you know what, you either do it for $100 a day or we'll get somebody else. And that's where we are.
Exactly. It doesn't matter how much experience you've got or who you're related to. That used to be a good one as well. I know people would name drop and say, oh, I'm so-and-so's cousin or so-and-so's daughter or so-and-so's son. If you're not prepared to do it as a reality show, that they don't want to know. And it's a shame, because you have to then diversify somewhat. So let's talk a little bit about the book that you've just written. It's called What Women Really Want. What do women really want, Morgan?
Oh, my goodness. Well, it's very interesting, because getting out of Hollywood and going into the political realm, speaking to women, they're very concerned that the government seems to think that women are just interested in birth control and abortion rights and maybe a little bit more equal pay. They said, we're more than that. We're interested in national security. We're interested in the economy. We're interested in freedoms being taken away from us. So these things are not being addressed from one side of the government, because they're trying to push an agenda on people, on women especially, thinking, you know what, you're just concerned about getting your birth control for free, or you're concerned about having everything taken care of for you. Well, that's not what women really want. And
no.
It's very interesting because women are so frustrated now. So many women, you would not believe, there was a poll out, and they asked them, they said, if you could choose, if you were financially able and you could choose whether to go to work every day or if you have children, stay home and raise your children, what would you rather do? And 90% of women said, if I could afford it, I would love to stay home and raise my children, which is a shock to, the feminists in this country, because they assume that women want to get out in the workforce and compete with men all the time. Well, that's not really the case when you come right down to it.
No. I mean, I got attacked on social media recently because there was a thread within my timeline on Facebook, and they were discussing your book, and they were saying that that your book dictates that women should be chained to the kitchen sink. Now, obviously, I know that's not true because I know all of you ladies that wrote it, and I know the premise of the book, and I said, who of you in this thread has actually read this book? And not one of them had read the book.
Right.
Now, do you think that there's an element out there of I don't know what I actually want to call it, but there is an element out there of people that want to paint this book as something that it's not.
Oh, you're most definitely right. They don't want to read it. They don't want to know. We present as a threat to them because we are empowering women, and we're telling women, look, don't let the government dictate to you. Don't let them tell you what you think and how you're supposed to live. You do it. You do it the way you think you should do it. And if you want to be a mother and you want to stay home with your children, then you do it. If you want to be in the workforce and that's what makes you happy, then do it. By all means, do it. But do not let them put shackles on you and tell you what to think and what to believe. Look what they're doing, Xander. They're telling you what to feed your children. They're putting Common Core in all the schools so that parents are not even going to be able to do homework with their children. I mean, they are taking control. Women do not want the government to take control. They do not want to live. I mentioned in the book about the life of Julia, where it's cradle-to-grave entitlement, and women just want a sugar daddy in the government. That is not what they want.
No. But this book is not just for conservative women or even just for women. This book is for men, too, isn't it? Let's face it. Yeah, it is, because it kind of lays everything out. I mean, my portion of the book is completely different from Dr. Gina's and Anne-Marie. They handle situations differently than I do, and I talk about the culture. I talk about where I have seen it go from 1956 when I entered the workforce in Hollywood. I have seen how the media has twisted things. I've seen how agendas have been pushed. I've seen this cancer growing that has just manipulated everything, and that's what I talk about in the book. And I empower women and talk about, look, if you don't like something, it's the conversation we just had, Xander. If you don't like something, step up to the plate and talk about it. Go into the school meetings if you don't like what they're teaching your children, or you don't like a book that they're having your child read. If you don't stand up and you don't make your voice heard, then you're going to be the silent majority forever. And I'm talking about men as well as women, because it seems that people that are more on the conservative side or even on the moderate side are so afraid of being branded and listed as racist or homophobic or whatever it is, and we're not.
And we say that in the book. We say we're not. We are open to everybody. Don't let this other side brand us as something that we're not. And it is.
But I think there's definitely a huge element of social conditioning in all of this, because we're actually all told what to think from a very early age. We're actually told about what roles for the mom, what roles are for the dad, what a man should do, what a man should be, what a woman should do, what a woman should be. Mm-hmm. How big a force do you think social conditioning is in all of this thinking?
Well, it's very big. And, that's the whole thing. They're trying to take away our right to think for ourselves and make our own decisions. We're not drones. We're not just little cardboard cutout things that they want to be able to manipulate and they want to be able to control. That's not who we are. Each one of us are individuals. Each one of us, we're good at something, we're bad at something else. You may look at your neighbor, and they may be absolutely wonderful at something you can't do, This individuality is what we're saying. We want to celebrate that, and we want to speak out about that. We don't want to fit into a neat little box somewhere. And we're very much open to what people think. I love discussions with people who think differently from me. That's stimulating. That's what America is. That's who we are. And I'm finding so much, and we wrote about this in the book, that everybody is trying to divide us and pit one against the other. Class warfare, women against men, rich against poor, black against white, homosexual against straight people. I mean, it is divisive, and that's not the way it should be. It should be a conversation and a dialogue, and it's not my way or the highway. That's not the way it should be.
In fact, a big part of my message over the past couple of years, as a part of my personal and political evolution, is that we need to actually start looking at the things that we agree on and have in common and using those as a platform, because we're never going to agree on everything. There are some hotbed issues that we're probably you and I would agree on more than most people, but this is the thing that I'm coming to see. We don't have to agree on every single thing to be friends or to have a relationship, because that's what freedom of choice is all about. But just because I don't agree with you on an aspect of something you're talking about or vice versa, it doesn't mean that you're wrong or I'm right. Opinion is opinion is opinion. But I think we've got locked into this systemic ideology that if I disagree with you, then I'm a hater. If I disagree with you when you happen to be black, I'm racist. If I disagree with you when you happen to be gay, then I'm homophobic. I mean, I'm openly gay, Morgan, and I've been accused of being homophobic because my opinions about gay marriage are not the same as everyone else's. We have to get away from that thinking, surely, don't we? Does it make you phobic because you disagree?
Exactly. And, I'll tell you who I feel really bad for, and it's a lot of my conservative black friends, because they are really, really outcast. I mean, I feel for them, and it's terrible, because they are just criticized from everywhere, every side, and I have long conversations with them, and I say, how do you do this? How do you get up every day and stick to your beliefs and be so strong? And they are strong, and they are getting the message out. But that's the thing, I'll tell you one thing, Xander, and I think what is going to bind us together, all of us together, is going to be a crisis. It's going to either be the Middle East that completely, it's out of control now, as you know. But I think if that feeds over into the United States, I think we are all, as a people, going to have to bind together. And we're going to have to fight something bigger than ourselves. So all this pettiness and all this little, well, I disagree with you on this and I don't like you for that, I think that's going to have to go by the wayside, because we're looking at a world that is just coming apart at the seams. And
absolutely,
we better unite. We better find common ground. And I kind of step back sometimes, and I will listen to somebody, and I'm a pro-life person, so I'll listen to people who have a different opinion than I do. But you know something? In the big picture, I'm going to be more tolerant of their feelings because, okay, I can deal with that. That's your decision. That's your choice to make. But in something that is worldwide, that is a threat to the world, like this stuff in the Middle East going on, I'm telling you, Xander, we better pull together. We better.
Well, I think all of those other things will become inconsequential because the severity of the things that are brewing right now with groups like ISIS and ISIL and Hamas, who hate us for merely being American and living in the United States. I'm kind of afraid by it, and I don't think that we're prepared as a country for the potential of these things. I mean, hell, I don't even think we're prepared for Ebola. So how are we going to be more prepared? I mean, 9/11 should have made us the most prepared country for terrorist attack. But I got to tell you, Morgan, it frightens me somewhat. It really does.
Oh, listen, I wake up every day. I write articles about what's going on. I have to do a lot of research into these groups. I talk with Frank Gaffney whenever I can see him because he's an expert on the Middle East. And I got to tell you, it frightens me as well. And if people, we have so much stimulation out there from other things that people tend to not educate themselves on what's really going on in this country. I totally understand because people have to go to work, they have lives, they've got issues, they've got, they don't have 24 hours a day to worry about politics and what's going on, and I get that. But you know something? You need to at least put a little bit of that on your agenda every day and say, I need to look at the headlines and I need to know what's going on. Because if you're uninformed and you don't know what's going on, that's when disaster happens. Because things can happen, people can walk in, they can take over, and you don't even know it's happening. So we need to be prepared. It's like the Ebola thing. I mean, I'm listening to these people on television, and it's, well, it could be this, or, it could be airborne eventually.
It could be airborne.
It's like, well, don't you know? I mean, you guys need to have known this. I mean, it's been in Africa for a long time, and this is what aggravates me, is all of our tax money is going toward all of these programs. I would think that there would be a little more preparedness. And the open border, the open southern border is ridiculous. I mean, ridiculous, because anybody can come over there.
Anybody but Sergeant Andrew Tamarisi, who they should be bringing over,
Yeah.
That just jumped into my brain right now. Time is moving on, Morgan, but I wanted to just talk to you for a moment about feminism, because there is this ideology. I really don't know what feminism is myself anymore, and I've heard that there's postmodern feminism and there's this. But what I want to ask you about feminism is, does feminism knock chivalry out of the way? So can a woman say, I'm a feminist, and then still expect for the door to be opened for her to the building or on the car? Or what do you think about that?
I think there's a new, Anne-Marie and Dr. Gina and a lot of the PolitiChicks around the country, we're defining a new feminism, a new type of feminism. And it's taking the word feminine. It's taking the word woman. It's not trying to make, which the old feminism was trying to make women into men. They were trying to have them compete with men. They were trying to make them as strong as men. They were trying to make them one-up men. And this is not who we are, Xander. That's not who we are. The modern-day feminist, I think, honors men, loves men, knows that we're different, knows that we want to be treated as women. We want the door to be open for us, yet we are strong. That's the thing. Men and women are complementary to each other, I believe, and I think that they give something from each of them to the other. And it's in every relationship, feminine, masculine relationship. One gives to the other, and they complement each other. You cannot be the same. It's not going to work if you're, if your head is in the same place. If you're competing against each other, that's not good. So I think it's the complementary, and the new feminism, I think, is more feminine.
Right. And I think chivalry has been replaced, really. I thought about this when I was researching for this segment, but has really been replaced by courtesy because I'll open the door for you whether you're male or female, black or white, gay or straight, because that's how I was raised, Morgan. I was raised to be polite to people, and whilst I find it hard to be polite and courteous to people that are not being like it with me, I have to to a certain point. So I think when you're raised in a certain way, courtesy is really what has replaced chivalry, because chivalry gives the idea it's kind of like one way, like men towards women. But I think we should all be looking out for one another. That's kind of like what I got from this.
Oh,
really.
I completely agree. And courtesy is, honestly, if you think about it, courtesy is at this point, when somebody does something nice for you, or if you drop something and somebody leans down to help you pick it up, that's almost like, well, thank you. And it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be such a rare occurrence when somebody does something nice for you that you're astonished that someone would do it. I mean, we need to get back to the days where it's just not even a thought. It's, of course I'm going to do that for you. Of course I'm going to stand up. I got on the train at Atlanta Hartsfield Airport, the tram that goes into the airport, and there was an elderly woman, probably in her 80s, and there were a couple of guys that were in their 20s, and they were sitting in the seats and didn't even think to stand up and give this woman their seat, and she was frail and old and trying to hold on to the railing in the front. And I thought to myself, do they not even see it? Do they not does it not even enter their mind that this woman needs to sit and they can get up?
It's as if we're too busy to look out for others. I mean, I'm not saying that personally, because it's part of, I think it's either part of who you are or not.
Right. Well,
I think it is.
But nobody's teaching it anymore, though. We were taught it.
No.
And it was part of, I remember going to school, and when the teacher came in the room, people would stand up, and then you'd sit down if it was a lady teacher. I mean, that is unheard of. And the other thing is, these kids now, they've got their machines in their hands, their phones, their iPods, the things in their ears. They can't hear what's going on, and they're just focused on a machine. They're not focused on what's going on around them. I think that if they noticed what was going on around them, maybe they would be different. I don't know.
Friends of mine who have children, they're taking the phone away when they come into the house. When they spend time together as a family, the phone goes off, the phone goes away. When they're eating dinner, the phone goes away. I think we've allowed these things to take over our lives. I've even started to have to schedule time into my day to not take any calls, to not do any emails, not to respond to anything, even just for a couple of hours a day, just for mental clarity. And it's made a big difference. to my life.
Well,
And,
we have to do it. We really do.
Exactly. Well, sadly, I could talk to you all day, Morgan, but we've come to the end of our slot. But tell people where they can find you and where they can buy the book, What Women Really Want. We'll be tweeting the links after the show today. I know it's available in. I was going to say Walgreens. It's not called Walgreens.
No, it's
called.
Amazon. Yes, Amazon.com. We're the #1 bestseller in Women in Politics right now, which was so
absolutely
exciting. I know.
Proud of you all. That's absolutely amazing.
It was wonderful, and so you can get it there. It's also on Kindle. You can get it on Kindle as well. And if you want to get a hold of me, my Facebook page is Morgan Brittany Actress. And then also on Twitter, it's Morgan Brittany and then the number 4. So it's Morgan Brittany 4. And you can find out what's going on with what I'm doing and where I'm appearing and, things like that if you want to come and meet me. We're going to be traveling the country, the three of us, doing book signings and meeting people and doing seminars and talking about things and empowering people. So, the big thing is, Xander, we've got to speak up. We can't become apathetic.
Absolutely.
Really, we do.
Use the voice that God gave you.
Absolutely, and we have to believe that things are going to get better because they will.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. I did get some contact from Anne-Marie and Dr. Gina during the show, and they had something come up. But I had a great time talking with you today, and I hope you will come and join us again in the future. But for today, thank you so much.
I love talking to you. You're wonderful.
I love talking to you too. It's such a pleasure, and being one of my growing up with you was one of my favorite villainesses. I'm doubly happy. So, but for today, thank you so much for joining us. Morgan Brittany, actress and author. Make sure you check out her book, What Women Really Want, and we look forward to talking to you again very soon. Thanks a lot, Morgan.
Thank you.
Take care. Lots of love.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, that's all we have time for today. Thanks to everyone who's made today possible. Thanks to Tyhe for co-hosting, and thanks to Morgan Brittany, actress and author, coming to talk about the book What Women Really Want on behalf of the PolitiChicks. Go buy their book, What Women Really Want, available from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all good bookstores. Thanks to you for listening and for your continued support. Don't forget to check out my TV show, Xandermonium. It's on the TV on the local channel, and if you don't get the local channel, Optimum 68, you can check it out on YouTube right after. But thank you for sticking with us for this 100 shows, and I look forward to being with you all again next time. I'm so excited. I've had my hour with Morgan Brittany. I will see you all again very soon, and I love you all. Bye-bye.